Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today we're going back to basics with the Panerai Radiomir Black Seal PAM 183, 45 millimeters in polished stainless steel, a favorite since 2004 of the Paneristi enthusiasts. This watch runs to the present and counts itself as one of the longest running, most successful, and most universally respected Panerai references, and the reason, quite frankly, is its respect for the company's history. Nay, not just respect, celebration of the company's history. So let's put it on the wrist and unpack some of the historical appeal of this heritage-inspired reference. Now you can see on my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This watch fits quite flush. Manual wind, it's exceptionally thin. The crown is out for a reason, I'll tell you in a minute. But you can see that the lugs are barely there. They are designed to resemble the welded-on or soldered-on wire lugs of the very first Panerai 3646 combat watches of the 1930s, and as a result, the cushion case inherited from the Rolex Oyster pocket watch of the 1930s. Yes, the original Panerai watches were in fact wire-lugged Rolex pocket watch cases repurposed for military use. But the bottom line is that on the wrist, it feels like it's not there. It spreads its mass very evenly. It has a very flat case back, and with possibly the most unobtrusive lugs of all time, you can see on my 6 1/3 inch wrist, quite honestly, it isn't even beginning to push the limits. This watch could be worn, I would say, on a wrist of 5 3/4 inches in circumference. Quite small, quite friendly, and quite light in spite of its stainless steel construction. A big part of that is the fact that it is so thin thanks to its manual wind movement. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, this watch incorporates a lot of historical elements. You can see everything from the calfskin strap, all the original Panerai combat watches used calfskin, to the pin buckle, to the dial. But all of these elements don't necessarily come from one watch or one era of Panerai history. You're looking at the essential shape of the first Panerai watches, that 3646, basically adapted pocket watch look that they inherited from Rolex. But then the dial is a combination of a few elements. There is the 1940 dial look, with the indices, the stick indices, and the Arabic numerals. There's the sandwich construction with the stencil on top of a loomed base that was introduced after 1938. The Arabic look with the Arabic numerals and the indices was introduced after 1940. But there's also small seconds at 9 o'clock, an element that didn't come into play till the 1950s and the advent of the 8-day Angelus movement. There's more going on, of course, with the onion crown, a throwback to the very first of those Panerai 3646s of the 30s, later replaced with a less charismatic cylindrical unit. The onion crown is just a fun piece to hold and to behold. But the logo on it is a Panerai logo from the 1970s, not the original unstylized OP. So again, you see there are multiple eras of Panerai history at play here, but all of them are significant. All of them are lovingly referenced. And of course, there's that reference to Black Seal on the dial. Now, the Black Seals, or the pigs, as they were sometimes known, were collectively the Panerai-equipped combat swimmers of the Decima Flottiglia and their Soluro Lanto Corsa manned torpedoes. Known as the Black Seals because they dressed in black and operated at night, they also operated to deadly effect, often punching far beyond their weight, sinking heavy cruisers, transports, and battleships with daring nocturnal endeavors. Now, this watch today is a loving reference to several eras of Panerai history, as well as the men who wore them into harm's way, hence the Black Seal reference. When we turn it over, you can see a Panerai OP11 caliber. This is based on the 1950s era Angelus 6497 pocket watch movement. Just as the first Panerai watches were powered by Rolex pocket watch calibers, many of the most, I would say, evocative Panerai historic style references like this PAM 183 also use pocket watch calibers to fill every square millimeter of that vast 3646 or Radiomir style case. Now, I mentioned that the watch had the crown out for a reason. That's because I want to bring this one to life for you. So you can see that huge traditional pocket watch balance wheel start its lazy 21,600 vibration per hour heartbeat. So I'm going to put it into its setting position. You can hear it winds with a gritty, satisfying set of detents. This crown feels and sounds more satisfying to wind than a lot of dive bezels I've operated on some wannabe divers. The bottom line is this is a very satisfying movement to wind, and with a 56-hour power reserve, you really only have to wind it once every 2 days. And now you can see the big pocket watch style beat of that huge balance wheel. You also see the swan's neck regulator. Shock resistant, it can be used for micro regulation of the balance, but because it is fixed with a screw, it can't be displaced by shock or motion on the wrist. So it's a great combination of a vintage aesthetic that still works in a practical sense. And this is one of the best elaborated 6497 calibers I've ever seen. Panerai really put love into this. There's always debate about in-house and customer calibers, but the reality is that Panerai historically, their heritage, their innovation has been the adoption and adaptation of other companies' products to suit their purposes. And the customer caliber pocket watch movement is a grand Panerai tradition, and they have vastly improved the basic 6497. You can see the stylized bridges blazoned with Côte de Genève waves, themselves with a delicate texture between the crest of each wave. You can see the radial graining on the wheels, on the crown wheel, on the click wheel. You can see that beautiful swan's neck regulator, high polish with heat blued screws throughout, and circular grained train wheels. It's not just a beautiful sight, it's an elaboration of the 6497 that you will rarely see, even in its best applications. And because it's big and easy to follow the path of the winding energy from the crown, through the barrel, through the train, to the balance, it's also like a little case study in the operation of a mechanical watch, a true pleasure to behold. And because strap swapping is part of the pleasure of owning any Panerai watch, this watch features the do-it-yourself system, so you can easily use a small screwdriver to remove the wire lug. It pulls right out when you unfasten these screws right here, and you can put on anything from another calfskin strap with an untreated leather look, to a rubber strap for use in the water, to an exotic stingray strap. Strap swapping is part of the Panerai Paneristi enthusiast subculture, and this PAM 183 Radiomir Black Seal has you set to start. The bottom line is that if you had to have one Panerai, just one that speaks to the broad heritage of the company, to its great traditions through every era, to its modern success as a stripped-down, no-nonsense, utilitarian, historically evocative sports watch, this Panerai Radiomir Black Seal PAM 183 would be an outstanding choice. There's a reason this one's been in the catalog since 2004, and that's because it delivers everything you want in a Panerai reference, modern or historic. This watch is available with a comprehensive set of original Panerai factory boxes, documentation of provenance, technical manuals, accessories like polishing cloth and hang tag, an original bezel protector. Check it out with this comprehensive set on our website, Watch You Want.